welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will get you detailed news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden slams GOP while Trump urged voters to reject Democrats. Biden-Trump made final appeals ahead of crucial midterm. Suspicious envelope found at GOP candidate's Phoenix office. Warnock-Walker get personal in Georgia's closing arguments. At global summits, Biden aims to assert America's leadership. Four critical, 5 stable after shooting on Philadelphia street. Authorities say 5 dead in Maryland murder-suicide. Deadly tornadoes hit Texas and Oklahoma, flatten buildings. Musk threatens to boot Twitter account impersonators. Singer-rapper Aaron Carter dies in California at age 34. JGR co-owner Coy Gibbs, 49 years old, dies hours after son wins title. North Korea says missile tests were practiced to attack South Korea and US. Work together or face collective suicide, UN chief at COP27. Apple says iPhone supplies hurt by antivirus curbs in China. Putin's chef admits to interfering in US elections. Astros Pena, first rookie hitter to win World Series MVP. And Judge Diaz Turner among 131 free agents after series ends. Now news in detail. President Joe Biden pilloried Republicans up and down ballots across the nation as election deniers who reveled in political violence, while his predecessor Donald Trump urged voters to oppose growing left-wing tyranny on the final Sunday before midterm elections that could reshape Washington's balance of power. Wrapping up a 5-state, 4-day campaign swing with an evening rally at Sarah Lawrence College in Yonkers, New York, Biden championed Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul. She is locked in a tight race with Representative Lee Zeldin, who is looking to become the state's first GOP governor since George Pataki left office in 2006. The president said hundreds of Republican candidates for state, federal, and local office are election deniers who say that I did not win the election, even though hundreds of attempts to challenge that have all failed, even in Republican courts. Biden said that for the deniers, there are only 2 outcomes for any election: either they win or they were cheated. More than 41 million people have voted early in Tuesday's races, which will decide control of Congress and key governorships, the first national election since a mob overran the Capitol. Earlier Sunday, as Trump addressed supporters in Miami, a reference to the House Speaker prompted chants of "lock her up," a stark reminder of just how far apart each side is. Trump is hoping that a strong GOP showing on election day will generate momentum for the 2024 run that he is expected to launch this month. An election year that unfolded against the backdrop of economic turmoil. the elimination of federal abortion rights, and broad concerns about the future of democracy, is concluding with a final full day of campaigning in which leaders of both parties issued urgent appeals to their supporters. President Joe Biden held a Monday evening rally in Maryland, where Democrats have one of their best opportunities to reclaim a Republican-held governor's seat. The appearance is in line with Biden's late campaign strategy of sticking largely to Democratic strongholds rather than stamping in more competitive territory, where control of Congress may ultimately be decided. His predecessor Donald Trump held his final rally of the campaign in Ohio. Ohio holds special meaning for the former president as he readies another run for the White House because it was one of the first places where he was able to prove his enduring power among Republican voters. Trump's backing of J.D. Vance was crucial in helping the author and venture capitalist and one-time Trump critic secure the GOP's nomination for a Senate seat. With more than 41 million ballots already cast, Monday's focus was ensuring that supporters either meet early voting deadlines or make plans to show up in person on Tuesday. The results will have a powerful impact on the final 2 years of Biden's presidency, shaping policy on everything from government spending to military support for Ukraine. Authorities on Sunday were investigating an envelope that reportedly contained suspicious white powder that was opened at the Phoenix campaign headquarters of Arizona Republican gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake. Phoenix police and fire officials said they were called to the building around 2 a.m. and there were no reports of injuries or illness. It's still unclear what was in the envelope. Lake's campaign said the staff member who opened the envelope was under medical supervision. Democratic gubernatorial candidate Katie Hobbs said in a statement that the incident is incredibly concerning and she was thankful Lake and her staff weren't harmed. Political violence, threats, or intimidation have no place in our democracy, Hobbs said. I strongly condemn this threatening behavior directed at Lake and her staff, she said. After spending months arguing that Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker is not ready for high elected office, Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia is intensifying his critique ahead of Election Day to say the celebrity athlete is fundamentally unfit for Capitol Hill. From a rally with former President Barack Obama to a statewide bus tour that runs through the eve of Election Day on Tuesday, Warnock has hammered Walker as a pathological liar who has exaggerated his business, academic, professional, and philanthropic achievements and been accused of violence against his family members and of paying for girlfriends' abortions despite his public opposition to the procedure. Walker, who denies he has ever paid for any abortions, is sticking to an argument he has made for months that Warnock is a rubber stamp for President Joe Biden and a Democratic congressional majority that Walker blames for inflation, rising crime, and a continued flow of immigrants across the U.S. border with Mexico. Those competing closing arguments reflect the increasingly personal nature of the Georgia contest and the wider national battle for control of Congress. Warnock and most Senate Democrats have steered clear of Biden and the National Party brand amid generationally high inflation, urging voters instead to consider their choices between individual candidates. Republicans, in turn, have sought to nationalize Tuesday's midterm elections as a referendum on Biden and his policies. President Joe Biden will aim to assert America's global leadership during his upcoming trip to Southeast Asia that will be shadowed by a verdict on his presidency after Tuesday's elections. The foreign policy challenges that have helped define Biden's first 2 years in office, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the increasing influence of China, will be on full display at a pair of summits in the region. Biden is preparing for a potential one-on-one meeting with a newly empowered Xi Jinping, who last month won a custom-shattering third term as China's Communist Party leader. Biden will also be confronted by global economic challenges at the Group of 20 Summit, an annual gathering of leaders from the world's largest economies. He also will try to assure the nearly dozen countries that are part of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations that the United States is invested in the region at a time when China is also stepping up its influence. The ASEAN Summit is in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Bali, Indonesia is the site of the G20 Summit. Before that, Biden will stop in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, at the UN Climate Conference known as COP27. Unlike last year's conference in Glasgow, Scotland, the president will arrive at this year's gathering able to point to significant achievements at home, with the August signing of legislation that will deliver the biggest investment in US history to battle climate change. 4 people remain in critical condition following a shooting that wounded 9 people on a busy Northwest Philadelphia street over the weekend, police said. Police said several people emerged from a vehicle and opened fire on a crowd at Kensington and Allegheny Avenues in the Kensington neighborhood at about 10:45 p.m. Saturday. Police said a 23-year-old man, a 27-year-old man, and 2 24-year-old men were critically wounded. 2 other 24-year-old men and 2 40-year-old men were listed in a stable condition, as was a 23-year-old woman. Police said at least 40 shots were fired. No arrests were immediately announced. Deputy Police Commissioner John Stanford said police could not immediately determine a reason for the shooting. A 28-year-old man is suspected of killing his ex-girlfriend, 2 of her relatives, and another man inside a Maryland home before fatally shooting himself, authorities said Saturday. The 5 deceased individuals were found inside the La Plata residence Friday afternoon when an unidentified homeowner arrived after work, the Charles County Sheriff's Office said in a news release Saturday afternoon. According to a preliminary investigation, the Sheriff's Office said Andrew Sells, 28 years old, entered the home and killed his ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old Sarah Mann, her brother Kai Mann, their mother Somali Mann, and another man who was inside. Javon Watson, 23 of White Plains, Sells, who lived at a different residence, then shot himself with a gun that was later recovered, according to the sheriff's office. 2 young children were initially unaccounted for but were located a short time later unharmed at a different location, the sheriff's office said. La Plata is about 35 miles south of Washington, D.C. Residents in southeastern Oklahoma and northeastern Texas began assessing weather damage Saturday, working to recover and thankful to have survived after a storm stretching from Dallas to northwest Arkansas spawned tornadoes and produced flash flooding, killing at least 2 people, injuring others, and leaving homes and buildings in ruins. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt went to the town of Idabel to see the damage. He said on social media that all the homes had been searched and a 90-year-old man was killed. Kelly Kane, spokesperson for the state's Department of Emergency Management, said the man's body was found at his home in the Pickens area of McCartin County, about 36 miles north of Idabel, Morris County, Texas. Judge Doug Reeder said in a social media post that 1 person died as a result of a tornado in the far northeastern Texas county, offering no other details. Reeder and other county officials did not immediately return phone calls for additional comment. Elon Musk tweeted Sunday that Twitter will permanently suspend any account on the social media platform that impersonates another. The platform's new owner issued the warning after some celebrities changed their Twitter display names, not their account names, and tweeted as Elon Musk in reaction to the billionaire's decision to offer verified accounts to all comers for $8 per month as he simultaneously laid off a big chunk of the workforce. Going forward, any Twitter handles engaging in impersonation without clearly specifying parody will be permanently suspended, Musk wrote. While Twitter previously issued warnings before suspensions, now that it is rolling out widespread verification, there will be no warning. In fact, any name change at all would compel the temporary loss of a verified checkmark, the world's richest man said. Aaron Carter, the singer-rapper who began performing as a child and had hit albums starting in his teen years, was found dead Saturday at his home in Southern California. He was 34. Representatives for Carter's family confirmed the singer's death. His fiancée, Melanie Martin, asked for privacy as the family grieves. Carter, the younger brother of Nick Carter of the Backstreet Boys, performed as an opening act for Britney Spears as well as his brother's boy band, and recorded several hits including Aaron's Party and I Want Candy. Deputies responded around 11 a.m. following reports of a medical emergency at the home in Lancaster, a desert city about 70 miles north of downtown Los Angeles, said Deputy Alexandra Parra with the LA County Sheriff's Department. Parra said the deputies found a deceased person at the residence, but she could not immediately confirm it was Carter. Authorities later said a house-sitter found a man in the bathtub in the home and resuscitation efforts were unsuccessful. Carter opened for the Backstreet Boys tour in 1997, the same year his gold-selling debut self-titled album released. He reached triple platinum status with his sophomore album, 2000's Aaron's Party, which produced hit singles including the title song and I Want Candy. His videos received regular airplay on Disney and Nickelodeon. Coy Gibbs, the vice chairman of Joe Gibbs Racing for his NFL and NASCAR Hall of Fame father, died Sunday morning just hours after his son won the Xfinity Series championship. He was 49. It is with great sorrow that Joe Gibbs Racing confirms that Coy Gibbs went to be with the Lord in his sleep last night. The family appreciates all the thoughts and prayers and asks for privacy at this time. The team said in a statement released shortly before the start of the NASCAR season final. Joe Gibbs has lost both of his sons. J.D. Gibbs died in 2019 of degenerative neurological disease and was also 49 at the time of his death. Coy Gibbs succeeded his older brother as vice chairman of the family-run NASCAR organization. NASCAR held a moment of silence for Coy Gibbs before the start of the Cup Championship Sunday at Phoenix Raceway, where JGR's Christopher Bell was racing for the title. Now an exclusive report presented by our associate reporter.
This is Raheem Soto with a Millennium 24 news update. Loss and damage officially on the agenda for UN Climate Summit COP27. This topic of loss and damage funding has been nothing short of a controversy among leaders and policymakers. According to John Kerry, who recently told Brown and Maddox, chief executive of the British international affairs think tank Chatham House, that the United States would be on board with helping developing nations which are disproportionately seeing the effects of climate change firsthand. The COP27 is being held in Egypt through November 18th. There are 45,000 people, including delegates from 196 countries and 120 world leaders expected to be in attendance. The 2022 election just one day away, voters and activists across North Carolina are preparing for the 2022 midterm election. We had a chance to speak with Jack Lambert, who's vice chairman of the Cabarrus County Republican Party, on his thoughts about tomorrow's election.
You know, I feel really good about what's going to happen. I mean, I've been involved in politics for 6 years now. I've been vice chairman for the past 2 years. I know that what I've seen in years past has been pretty tame compared to what I've seen this time around. I'll tell you, the school board and local elections are really influencing people a lot more than they have in years past, and that's what I'm really excited about.
With a highly contentious U.S. Senate race for the seat vacated by Republican Senator Richard Burr, Republican Ted Budd is ahead in the polls going into Election Day. This is what Lambert had to say about the momentum he's seeing for Republicans.
Yeah, I've been out at the polls pretty much every day. There's a lot of folks coming up taking the Republican Party ballot, a lot of people voting for the GOP this election.
North Carolina is also facing a highly contested state Supreme Court race where Republicans Richard Dietz and Trey Allen are looking to give Republicans the advantage on the state's highest court. With important issues such as abortion, marijuana legalization, and highly contested election issues in North Carolina, Republicans are fighting for an advantage on the state Supreme Court.
Now it's time for global updates. North Korea's military said Monday its recent barrage of missile tests were practices to mercilessly strike key South Korean and US targets such as air bases and Operation Command systems with a variety of missiles that likely included nuclear-capable weapons. The North's announcement underscored leader Kim Jong-un's determination not to back down in the face of his rivals' push to expand their military exercises. But some experts say Kim also used their drills as an excuse to modernize his nuclear arsenal and increase his leverage in future dealings with Washington and Seoul. North Korea fired dozens of missiles and flew warplanes toward the sea last week, triggering evacuation alerts in some South Korean and Japanese areas, in protest of massive US-South Korean Air Force drills that the North views as an invasion rehearsal. US and South Korean officials responded they would further enhance their joint training events and warned the North that the use of nuclear weapons would result in the end of Kim's regime. UN Chief Antonio Guterres warned world leaders at a climate summit in Egypt on Monday that humanity faces a stark choice between working together or collective suicide in the battle against global warming. Nearly 100 heads of state and government are meeting for 2 days in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, facing calls to deepen emissions cuts and financially back developing countries already devastated by the effects of rising temperatures. Humanity has a choice: cooperate or perish, Guterres told the UN COP27 summit. It is either a climate solidarity pact or a collective suicide pact, Guterres said, urging richer polluting nations to come to the aid of poorer countries least responsible for the emission of heat-trapping gases. Nations worldwide are coping with increasingly intense natural disasters that have taken thousands of lives this year alone and cost billions of dollars, from devastating floods in Nigeria and Pakistan to droughts in the United States and Africa and unprecedented heat waves across 3 continents. Guterres, however, told world leaders climate change could not be put on the back burner. He called for a historic deal between rich emitters and emerging economies that would see countries double down on emissions, holding the rise in temperatures to the more ambitious Paris Agreement target of 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial era. Current trends would see carbon pollution increase 10% by the end of the decade and Earth's surface heat up 2.8 Celsius. Apple Incorporation is warning customers they will have to wait longer to get its latest iPhone models after antivirus restrictions were imposed on a contractor's factory in central China. The company announcement Sunday gave no details but said the factory operated by Foxconn in the central city of Zhengzhou is operating at significantly reduced capacity. We now expect lower iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max shipments than we previously anticipated, the company said. Customers will experience longer wait times to receive their new products. Foxconn Technology Group said earlier it imposed antivirus measures on the factory in Zhengzhou following virus outbreaks. Apple and Foxconn previously hadn't responded to questions about how iPhone production might be affected. Last week, access to the industrial zone where the factory is located was suspended for 1 week following a surge in infections in Zhengzhou and the departure of workers from the factory. Yevgeny Prigozhin, an entrepreneur known as Putin's chef because of his catering contracts with the Kremlin, on Monday admitted he had interfered in US elections and said he would continue to do so, for the first time confirming the accusations he has been rejecting for years. We have interfered, are interfering, and will continue to interfere, carefully, precisely, surgically, and in our own way, Prigozhin said in remarks posted by his spokespeople on social media. Prigozhin, a dozen other Russian nationals, and 3 Russian companies were charged with operating a covert social media campaign aimed at fomenting discord and dividing American public opinion ahead of the 2016 US presidential election. They were indicted in 2018 as part of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian election interference. He also previously denied ties to the Wagner mercenary force, but in September admitted to founding and financing it in 2014 and started speaking openly about its involvement in the war in Ukraine. Now it's time for today's business news. Today's New York stock close price is 14,808.63. The NYSE composite is increased by 105.86 points or 0.72%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,527.64. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 327.90 points or 1.21%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,077.817. The Shanghai Composite Index is increased by 7.02 points or 0.23%. Hong Kong stock close price is 16,595.91. The Hang Seng Index is increased by 434.77 points or 2.69%. Bombay stock close price is 61,185.15. The Sensex index is increased by 234.79 points or 0.39%. Now a look of today's sports stories. Jeremy Pena's key to success was keeping his head dry, capping a freshman season like no other. He became the first rookie position player to win a World Series MVP award Saturday night after hitting .400 in the Houston Astros 6-game victory over the Philadelphia Phillies. The hardest part was just blocking everything that's not part of the game, Pena said. Pena also won a Gold Glove and was the AL Championship Series MVP. The 25-year-old shortstop became the first hitter to win those three prizes in a career according to OptaStats, and he did it all in his rookie season. Aaron Judge, Edwin Diaz, Trey Turner, Dansby Swanson, and Xander Bogaerts were among 131 players who became free agents on Sunday as baseball's business season began just hours after the final out of the World Series. Justin Verlander, Jacob deGrom, and Carlos Rodon are set to join them in the next few days, among 56 players whose contracts have options that must be decided within 5 days of the World Series end. All three pitchers are expected to decline player options, as is shortstop Carlos Correa and first baseman Anthony Rizzo. Clayton Kershaw, Wilson Contreras, Brandon Nimmo, Kenley Jansen, Nathan Eovaldi, and Josh Bell and Andrew Benintendi also went free Sunday. Some players, such as Mets pitcher Chris Bassett, have contracts with mutual options that must be decided. About 55 additional players are potentially eligible for free agency depending on option decisions. Let's have a look on today's weather chart. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia, available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.